You are listening to Passing Shots with Pete Ziebron on the Pro 10 Radio Network, a production of Pro 10 Global Sports. Enjoy the show.
Good evening and welcome to Passing Shots presented by the Pro 10 Radio Network. Today is Tuesday, June 10th, 2014. Pete Ziebron along with tennis writer and author Barry Buss in Los Angeles. Good evening, Barry.
Good evening. How are you?
Doing well, thanks. And we'd like to remind our listeners you can call the show at 347-637-1197, 347-637-1197. And we've got a lot to talk about. We're in between time right now, Barry. We just wrapped up Roland Garros over the weekend. We're back on the lawns of England and Germany, leading up to Wimbledon. And let's get right underway with the men's final. Actually, last time we were on, we were previewing the men's semifinals, and it went according to form. The gentlemen who appeared in the final are exactly who we thought they would be. I actually went with Djokovic in that. You were all over it with Nadal, and Rafael Nadal gets the job done against Novak Djokovic in 4 sets. That's Rafael Nadal's 9th Roland Garros and 14th major overall. Djokovic won the first set. Looked like he may have had some traction there. Wasn't able to ever get the early break in the second, and from there on out, it was Rafael Nadal all business. Your thoughts and your take on the men's final at Roland Garros?
Yeah, super stuff. I mean, you just have to commend, you kind of run out of superlatives with Nadal at some point, and it's just too easy to kind of take him for granted winning a French again, but it is such an amazing accomplishment, and for him to do it 9 times is, it's hard to even really, put that in the context of what it's like in, the history of the sport. As the match went, there seems to be a pattern developing here. Djokovic at his best is better than Nadal at his best. And you saw it in that first set. He started dialing it in, had the distance on his shots, was hitting the openings, he hit the openings and creating the openings. And, he looked dominant. And even halfway through the second set, same thing. He didn't quite get the break. And then all of a sudden he just has that little bit of a let-up. And he seems to be having those let-ups in the majors. It's the third one in a row, I believe, third or fourth one in a row that he's lost to Nadal, and then obviously in Australia also to Wawrinka. So he's having these little letdowns. That's 5 out of 6 finals he's lost now, throwing a couple Murray matches in there. So there seems to be a pattern developing where he's not playing his best tennis in the big moments, and I think it's starting to get to him a little bit emotionally. You can just see there's a little bit of doubt in him in those big moments there, and more or less that's what it came down to. Certainly, at the end of the second set, the third set, his attitude was terrible. You could just tell he was beat. Obviously he wasn't feeling well either, but he just didn't look like a Grand Slam champion there. And the fourth set didn't go terribly well himself, though he did have a chance at the end there to tie that up. But we'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, I just it kind of went more or less to form. It was kind of what you expected these matches would go like right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw it the same way. I'm wondering, business as usual for Novak Djokovic in the semifinals against Gulbis, 6-3, 6-3, then loses the third set. Quite surprising, not taking anything away from Ernest Gulbis, but I was very surprised Novak Djokovic did not close that out in 3 sets. Obviously, he got the job done in 4. Got a little dicey there in the fourth. He actually said in his presser afterwards, I'm glad it didn't go 5. You never know what could have happened. But there were people in press who mentioned that Djokovic did not sound 100% like he had a cold, and obviously looked like he vomited a few times on court against Rafa in the final. Tough enough to play Rafael Nadal at Roland Garros when you're 100%, but when you've got a stomach ailment or not feeling well, do you think that at all factored into Novak Djokovic's inability?
No question about it. And I think we touched on this last time we spoke. I have a theory here I've been kind of working when you're playing against a guy like Nadal, where if you don't go through him in straight sets, in 3 sets, that's going to put you in around the 2.5 hour mark. And the only way to beat him nowadays is you've got to just take the ball early and play very much hard court tennis on a clay court. You really have to hit through him. You just can't outgrind him back there. It's not going to happen. If you're not going to run through him in 3 sets, and then nobody ever has, that basically puts you deep into a 4th set, and that gets you at the 3.5-hour mark. And I don't care how good a shape you're in, it's just almost impossible to execute that high-level, high-risk tennis late in the 4th set under that kind of pressure in a Grand Slam final against him when you're not feeling 100%. And whether he's a little ailing or not, even if he wasn't, at that point in those matches, that's when the body starts to give a little bit. And it's been a consistent theme here. It's the 3rd time it's happened with these 2 guys. You've seen it with other guys playing Nadal in these matches where they just they can't keep firing at 3 and 4 hours at him like that on that surface in particular. And it's played out true again. So yeah, even in the best of conditions, it's a dicey chance beating him. But if you're off even slightly, it's almost no chance.
You made a great point a little while ago where Novak Djokovic, something just is not working for him in the big matches and majors any longer. In the final or against Stan Wawrinka, I mean, the last 2 points of that match against Wawrinka were inexcusable. That just did not look like Novak Djokovic. And, he did close out last year with, I believe, that 26-match win streak, picking up the Masters 1000s after he lost at the U.S. Open, just cleaned up the rest of the year. But, that's something. He brought Becker into his camp to get that extra, as he said, 1 or 2%, but maybe it was the health-related issue. But as you mentioned, Barry, even at 100%, there's just something about going past the 3-hour mark against Rafael Nadal anywhere, but especially on clay and Roland Garros. And interesting stat, by the way. Obviously, we know Rafael Nadal has lost 1 time at Roland Garros, but he's played a lot of Davis Cup matches, which are obviously best of 5. Rafael Nadal today is 90-1 in best of 5 clay court matches. That is just hard to fathom.
Yeah, it really is a remark, and it's not like he's not working in these matches. I mean, these things are close, and he's grinding, and he's just hitting hundreds and hundreds of balls, and it's just fascinating how he just has not had that drop in level. And he's hardly been healthy the whole time in his career, too. He's had a lot of times out he's been on that court where he has not been feeling well, either the knee or whatever is going on with him, which is one of the points I actually want to talk about in a bit here, because you could see at the end of that match there with Djokovic, he was starting to cramp, which is something we've never really seen him do in the matches, and I think this is going to be a concern going forward for him. Obviously the back went out on him in Australia late in that tournament for 2 weeks on the hard courts down there. He's starting to show some physical wear and tear. The last 2 Wimbledons have been disasters, primarily because of the fact that he won the French and he the whole clay court season accumulating with the French Open. It seems to be taking everything out of him. By the time he gets to Wimbledon, there's nothing left. And I kind of anticipate a similar situation this year for him. I just don't know how he just bounces. Even Halle, I don't know how he's going to play this week at all. I don't think. I mean, I was making bets with my friend when he was going to pull out.
That's funny you say that, because I read that within an hour of getting to Germany, he was out on the courts. And, when he went into the stands, first of all, I'm not sure how he managed to hoist himself up into the stands on Chatrier. But, and the group hug and everything, Uncle Tony Nadal said something to him. And, if I had that picture and there was a speech balloon contest, what Tony said to Rafael, I would have bet that you're not playing Halle next week, is how I would have filled in that balloon.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. And I think he's such a good guy, and he's such a tour person. He knows the importance of having him in a draw in a tournament and for selling tickets and promoting these events. And so he's going to do everything in his power to get there. I think the one saving grace he has for him is Federer is there too, so that will so he won't decimate the tournament if he pulls out. So it's one of those things where I think they've got a little bit of an insurance policy there. And I don't. My take is he'll probably play one match and get out of there and just do what he needs to do to show up. But yeah, he looked terrible. He didn't sleep a wink Sunday. Monday was all promos and pictures, and so I don't know how these guys. You can maybe go in there with a little bit of adrenaline, but boy, at the middle of next week, he's going to crash, and it doesn't set up well for being prepared, optimally for Wimbledon. Less than 2 weeks away.
Right. Yeah, and he was wishing it's next year where they get the extra week, but not 2015 quite yet. Right.
Yeah.
And Barry, we're going to talk more about Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer, obviously both in the Halle draw as we mentioned. But let's get to the women at Roland Garros, and big hearty congratulations to Maria Sharapova. Winning her second Roland Garros in 3 years, has been in the final the last 3 years, fifth major overall. I don't think anybody, including Maria, would have ever thought that she would have two Roland Garros compared to one of everything else, that her odometer, if you will, would be higher at Roland Garros than it would be at any other major. But she is the fighter that we all know she is. She dug very deep throughout that tournament, especially in the semis against Bouchard and in the final against Simona Halep. That was an impressive performance. She obviously wasn't playing her best. We had 6 consecutive breaks of serve at one point in that match, and the first 4 games of that match took over a half hour, and then the level sort of dipped, and Maria was the last one standing. How did you see that ladies' final?
I was actually somewhat impressed in the beginning. I thought both of them handled the situation pretty darn well for the nerviness of it. Maria's been just starting terribly, for a while now. I mean, that's 20-odd 3-setters. I think she's won in a row now on the clay. And, in Halep, her first major final, you would have expected a little bit of nerves. I thought the ball striking was quite good right out of the gate. I thought they had a lot of, I thought they both settled into the match quite well. Yeah, there was a little bit of a lull there in the middle, but, I was very impressed with how Halep hung in there. She fought back, and then classic Maria, she didn't crack. But I just, the thing you could really see the difference in pop. It just seemed if Maria, as long as Maria's not making errors, she's going to have a little bit more in the tank on her shot. And you really just noticed it with Halep. Their base rally ball, Maria's just had more on it, and Halep was getting herself in a little bit of trouble and kind of having to press a little bit and play a little bit outside of her comfort zone. And I think it just caught up with it's just a really hard thing to do under that level of pressure and intensity, and her first time in a major like that against such a competitor. True. I just don't call order for your first time out there.
Yeah, I thought she handled it well. Also, we'll talk about Simona in just a moment, but I want to, obviously Maria has had a very good career, and obviously running into Serena Williams at inopportune times at majors has cost her a few more titles, whether that be in the quarters or semis or even in the final itself of a major. But she's now at 5, very accomplished career. And how many do you think Maria will end up with a number of majors at the end of her career?
That's a good question. I'm actually pretty close with her camp. Her former coach, Michael Joyce, is a very close friend of mine out here in L.A., and I've had the joy to practice with me a few times out here. There's something with her that kind of transcends the wear and tear of the average tour life out there. There's a part of her that's so compartmentalized about having her business and her private life and then her match life, and it just doesn't look like she's burning out. She's been through all the injuries and the ups and downs in her serving and and all the transitions in her growing up in the public eye like this. I just think she's got this. She's overcome so much to get to this place she's at now. I know her coach now, Stan, and her are having a great relationship. She's very, very motivated to work for him, and she's healthy. I don't know. It seems like Serena's on her downside here. I mean, you've got to look at her to be the favorite, certainly for the next couple, Wimbledon and the Open. So there's no reason she can't put a few more together here. She seems to be just a little bit, Azarenka is very off right now. Li Na, I don't know what's going on there. To go out first round like that, she did it. So I just think stability-wise and mentally toughness-wise, when she's dialed in and doing her thing, she's able to win majors without her best stuff. That's really something remarkable. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely think she's got a few more in her here. She's only 20, and believe it or not, she's only 26, right? I mean, she feels like she's been out there for as long, forever. But, she's still got, some good years ahead of her.
Sure. And, I agree. Definitely a fighter. Doesn't have to play the sport anymore. Has all kinds of money in the bank with endorsements and, the Sugarpova candy company now, but she's out there because she's a fighter, she's a competitor, loves to win, and obviously her body has compromised her a little bit, but all credit to her for finding other ways and means of maximizing her talent to get the job done. And let's talk about Simona Halep a little bit, Barry. I'm very impressed as well with her effort throughout the tournament. Has won, I believe it was 7 tournaments in the last 13 months to get to number 4 in the world, now number 3. All credit to her. Question to you, I'm going to pose this a little bit of a different way. And, you look at some of the champions of ladies' majors. Petra Kvitova won Wimbledon a few years back, and how many is she going to end up winning? Ana Ivanovic winning Roland Garros. How many more will she win? Well, those ladies are stuck on one. Simona Halep got to the final, did very well. Obviously, didn't get the job done. My question to you is, do you think Simona Halep will win a major? If so, when will that be, and which one?
Ooh, boy, tough question. Yeah, I agree. It's natural. She's kind of the it thing right now, and it's kind of natural to expect and predict great things from her because she obviously has had a tremendous calendar run here. She's been healthy. She's had a good, it's just been, she's got tremendous momentum. I mean, going into these matches, her confidence in herself. So I'll be interested to see what happens when she has a little bit of a letdown, which might come very soon here, probably, in London here. So we'll see how she bounces back from that. This has been a kind of a glorious linear ascent rise into to the elite of the game. And now she's going to get bounced around a little bit like Ivanovic did, like Jankovic has done, Wozniacki, Kvitova. All have had their rough times, and some of them have been able to come back a little bit better than others. Stefinas and girls like that have just completely fallen out, and the Bonarevas, and then Radwanska seems to be heading that direction too. So a lot of it just depends. There's so much up and down in the women's, in the top 10 of the women's game over the last decade. It's kind of fascinating if you look at how many career flameouts there have been. So right now she seems to be very focused. She's got that kind of game that's just got just enough pop to it, where I think she can she's got more than one way to skin a cat out there that she'll be able to beat players. She can outmove them and outgrind them, and she can also outhit them. And she doesn't seem to have any technical issues that are going to really flare up for her. It's just a matter of emotionally and and confidence-wise, if she can just keep it going and avoid the burnout. That's an awful lot of tennis she's played here in the last 12 months. So she's got to if I were her, I would find a beach somewhere, after Wimbledon, kick her feet up and just, kind of reassess how much of this tennis stuff she's going to be playing every week.
Sure. You think she'll get a major?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. She seems too good. She's going to be there. Yeah, I think. I don't think certainly this won't be her only final. She's got the game for it. I'll give her a major. I think she'll probably get one, probably on the clay. I would think maybe next year or the year after.
Okay, good call. Obviously, she played very, very good, inspired tennis on the clay, Roland Garros and tournaments coming in. And you make a good point about getting all the way there, either winning or getting to a final and then flaming out. We saw that actually earlier this year with Jeannie Bouchard getting to the Australian Open semis, then really did not much of anything before, right before Roland Garros winning in Nuremberg, Germany, before getting to the semis. So, we talked about Jeannie a few other shows, but that seems to be very typical, especially on the ladies' side, someone who gets all the way to the final or semis and then sort of disappears. And that said, I agree with your advice there, Barry. And that is after Wimbledon, Halep should take a little bit of a vacation before the U.S. Open series starts, where she can get ready for the hard court. She's played, like you said, a heck of a lot of tennis here over the last year, and certainly her body and mind will need that rest. And we're coming up on a break right now, Barry. When we come back, we're going to talk. Obviously, there's been yet another major coaching move on the ATP side of the ledger in professional tennis. We're going to come back and talk about that move and what that means for the particular player and coach when we come back right after this.
Hey, Thirst, can I try out a few Coke Summer sound effects on you? Cool. You okay with this? And this? And what about this? Gotcha there, Thirst. That wasn't sound effects. That was a Coke. I'm no longer thirsty. You're so out of here. Coca-Cola. Open happiness.
What is this bill for $562? Let me call these people.
Thanks for calling Big Tobacco. How can I be of assistance?
Hi, I was going through my mail and saw this bill saying I owe $562 for smoking-related expenses.
That's correct, ma'am.
Yeah, what's the deal with this bill?
See, smokers miss more work and retire earlier, which costs Nevadans $903 million in lost productivity per year. Also, smokers get sick with diseases like lung cancer and emphysema, costing another $565 million in medical expenses. So, when you add it up and divide by a total number of Nevadans, it comes out to $562 per Nevada household.
Okay, but I don't smoke.
Whether you smoke or not, every Nevadan pays the bill.
You know what? I'm not paying this bill.
Actually, you already did. And you'll be making the same payment again next year. Well, thank you for your call.
Hello?
Is smoking worth it? Learn more at smokefreevegas.com. That's smokefreevegas.com. Or for free help quitting smoking, call 1-800-QUIT-NOW. That's 1-800-QUIT-NOW.
Made possible by funding from the Department of Health and Human Services.
Little Caesars, home of the $5 hot and ready pepperoni pizza, now has a deep, deep dish pizza with 8 crispy caramelized corner slices and even more cheese and pepperoni. So head on down and grab a large for just $8 and tell them Alan Varner sent you. They won't know who that is, but as a voice actor, I'm always trying to get my name out there. Check me out at alandoesvoices.com. That's ALAN doesvoices.com. But first, get the new deep, deep dish pizza. It's hot and ready every day from 4 to 8 p.m. for just $8, only at Little Caesars.
Pizza.
At participating locations plus tax.
Hi, this is Dick Stockton, and you're listening to the Pro 10 Radio Network. Catch me live on the Players Lounge, Thursday, June 12th at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Time.
And welcome back to Passing Shots on the Pro 10 Radio Network. Pete Ziebron with Barry Buss. And Barry, before we went to mention that there's been yet another coaching change on the ATP side. Andy Murray obviously parted ways with Yvonne Lendl earlier this year, and he was without a coach for a while. And the big news out of the Murray camp is that he brought on a former Wimbledon champion, two-time major champion, Amelie Mauresmo, to join him. Obviously, this is, as was stated, a short-term agreement, I believe. Mauresmo is going to be around for Wimbledon, possibly longer, but obviously bringing a lot of news, ripples. The media will have plenty to talk about, look at, analyze, dissect with respect to Amelie Mauresmo in the Andy Murray camp. Somewhat of a surprise, but Andy Murray, if anybody was sort of going to break the mold out there on the men's side, it would be him. He was coached by his mother, Judy, for a long time. But want to get your thoughts and analysis on Murray's decision to bring Mauresmo into the camp.
Yeah, it certainly makes for great copy. I don't know. What do you say right off the bat? I mean, Mauresmo has one thing over Lendl. She has danced at the Champions Ball for Wimbledon, whatever did. So so she knows what that to hold that winner's trophy feels like there. Yeah, it's a tough one. You know, you got to wonder. Obviously, he interviewed a lot of people and he gave this a lot of thought. And you made a good point there. He's not unfamiliar with having a female voice in his camp. He always seems to be the emotional type who could use a little bit of more nurturing. So it seems to be that he's got a connection there to the female side of things. You know, when it gets down to the actual X's and O's and so forth, you know, listen, after watching that semifinal, you know, you could have the Pope and Tony Robbins and the Dalai Lama and the entire Tennis Hall of Fame in his box. I don't think it's going to make a whole lot of difference coming up against the elite players right now. He's got a lot bigger problems than he was coaching him, you know, right now in order to be able to hang with the Nadals and the Djokovics, you know, and Federers in the big matches right now. He just doesn't seem to be quite his playing self. Obviously, emotionally, he feels that there's some connection with her. That when he talks to her and he connects with her, that she brings out the best in him, which is all really a coach can do. And short of not being able to go into the locker room with him, I don't really know. She knows how to win tennis matches, and I don't know. Beyond that, it's a little bit of a shock to the old guard dinosaurs who are just not there. But there is precedent here. Billie Jean King, I believe she worked with Tim Mayotte, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
During his career, so this is not unprecedented. And I believe Chesnikov had a female coach, the famous Russian player. So there are situations out there like this. I'm surprised there are not more, to be honest with you, more female coaches out in the domain, the Martinez and so forth. But, it's fascinating. Obviously the proof's in the pudding. If he wins, he's a genius, and if he loses, it'll be interesting to see how they spin it.
Yeah, and Mauresmo, I believe 2 or 3 years ago, was working with Michael Lodra, obviously a countryman there, and I believe that was even at Wimbledon where she was there. Lodra, obviously much more of a double specialist, but very talented at singles as well, and Mauresmo was with him for a while. But I want to bring up 2 different points about that loss, that horrific loss Murray suffered at the hands of Nadal at the Roland Garros semifinals. And first of all, I asked a friend what he thought about Murray hiring Mauresmo and how he made sense of that. And he basically said, watching the Murray-Nadal match, Murray was very, very defensive against Nadal, just didn't bring it in that match. And, Mauresmo won her 2 majors on the attack and just really brought it. So I said possibly Murray is looking for that edge, but I agree. After watching that match, it wouldn't have mattered who was in his box. But did you see some tentativeness, some defensive more than aggressive that Murray showed against Nadal in that semi?
Yeah, and that's, ultimately, when he played him, I believe, was it in Rome? I think he took him to 3 sets, that really long match.
Yes.
He came out swinging. He won the first set 6-1. He was just he was playing hardcore tennis on the clay court, and he's taking the ball early and just going through. I mean, he's shown that he's got the capabilities to do this. He did it at Wimbledon last year. He's been, at the Open when he won, and he's been really, really strong. His game really, really picked up when he got more aggressive. Because he can hit it with anybody out there. Unfortunately, I think with the back and just losing a little bit, losing some matches and losing the confidence, he just didn't look like he felt like he belonged in that match against Nadal. And obviously the scoreline, proved that to be true. But yeah, I mean, he did, trying to outgrind Nadal on that court is just not going to work. And that's kind of been Murray's problem, is he gives these guys way too many good swings, and they're just, I don't care how good a defensive player he is, that's just not going to work. These guys have way too much ammo and stuff. He gets in trouble when he gets a little bit careful and just starts rolling the ball back, especially off his backhand side, where he can really dictate off that wing. But when he gets a little passive there, that ball just sits up. It doesn't have the jump his forehand has, and he gets in trouble there.
Yeah, I want to ask you. I have an interesting parallel, if it makes any sense at all, and I'm going to turn back the clock a little bit, Barry. The year Rafael Nadal absolutely destroyed Roger Federer in the Roland Garros final, just crushed him. I think Fed got maybe 5 or 6 games, and that is the year that Nadal beat Federer for the very first time at Wimbledon, and that final had to have had a lingering effect on Fed going into Wimbledon, probably doubting himself a little bit. That was a classic final, but Murray got destroyed by Nadal at Roland Garros. Granted, that wasn't a final, but it was a semifinal, and like Fed years ago, Murray is the defending champion at Wimbledon. Do you think that this absolute destruction that Nadal put on Murray at Roland Garros will have anything to do with Murray's psyche coming into Wimbledon, the fact that he lost so poorly?
It's almost impossible to believe that it couldn't. As a former player, you get a beat down like that from somebody who has beaten you badly before. A couple of weeks later, you're not over that. You can play all the mind games you want in your head to try to, believe in yourself and your confidence and just focus on your own game and your own results. But when someone lays one on you like that, that wasn't just a bad, high profile beating. You can shake it off only so much. I mean, that's going to get into your craw that this guy, has got my number. And kind of in the lead into that, just when you come into Wimbledon and looking for who might be, the favorites here, obviously the defending champion is down a notch. It looks to me like these guys are going to struggle a little bit. I think Nadal's going to have physical problems. Djokovic has got his wrists, and he's played an awful lot of tennis now this year. I'm looking more towards the Federer type of guys. The guys are a little fresher, or who've been shorten the points up a little bit, and play a little better. But yeah, I just can't see how Murray's going to come in there, booming with confidence, like certainly like he was last year, because he was in a good place last year going in there.
Sure, good points. And as a former player, as you mentioned, boy, once somebody drums you like that, you just can't help but have a little bit of that in you, no matter how hard you try and shake that off. And Barry, going back to again looking at Halle right now, both Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer are in the field. Nadal with the Roland Garros title, 14 majors overall, tied Pete Sampras. 3 behind Roger Federer. People are thinking possibly Fed has 1 or 2 left in them, and that Wimbledon would be his best chance to get another major or 2. Let's talk about the race, if you will. Roger Federer, 17 majors, early 30s, 32 years old. Rafael Nadal, 14 majors, 26, 27 years old, but the mileage on his body is just off the charts. And do you think Rafael Nadal can reach Roger Federer, perhaps surpass him?
Super question, and every time, we have a major like we do here, there's always kind of the reshuffling of the deck of, who's in, who's out, where are things standing, who is the greatest of all time, that very fun debate we like to get into. Obviously, he's 3 behind. He's pretty untouchable on the clay. Something we just talked briefly about. He's starting to show a little bit of wear, in these matches. Obviously, his back went out in Australia against Wawrinka at the end of the 2 weeks. He's cramping at the end of this event. He was struggling the last 2 years at Wimbledon first round after going through the brutal clay court season and winning in Paris. So I think physically he's up against it a little bit. There's an interesting, I'm not sure if you're a Nate Silver fan, the 538 blog. He statistically predicted that Nadal is too old to catch Federer. Maybe they get, it's hard to predict the future. But, on as those two go, I think, to be honest with you, I think Federer's got an excellent chance to win Wimbledon this year again. He seems like, he's beating all the guys this year. He's got his health is with him. He just seems to be in a good place, and comparatively to the other guys, I think it's wide open this year. I think the other guys are down a little bit. I predicted quite a few upsets actually this year. I think the younger guys are going to start catching up to I think Djokovic and Nadal may not have the best tournaments this year. So can he catch him? Certainly he can. He's on a roll here, and but winning these majors is tough stuff. It's easy to say he only needs 3 more, but boy, each one is such a titanic struggle to get to the finish line. And I don't think he's going to win Wimbledon again. I would be very surprised. And then can he make it through the summer hardcourt season and still be standing? When his body's taking a beating. He didn't look good in Australia, he didn't look good in France here, and so we'll see how the next couple months go.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, Roland Garros and the Masters 1000s on clay, plus throw Barcelona in there beforehand. Really, I mean, that's how Nadal preps for Roland Garros. But yes, the gas tank is on the body's a little bit more banged up. Obviously, has not had good performances at Wimbledon the last couple of seasons. Side, Roger Federer has an extra week of practice on grass, and Barry, he's actually also playing doubles in Halle with Marco Schiavinelli, one of his countrymen. So Fed really has the game face on. Obviously, loves being out on the grass, and at good points with the rest of the field, the rest of the Big Four, if you will, banged up a little bit, whether that be in the confidence department with Murray, the wrist or stomach with Djokovic, probably multiple body parts with Nadal, and then all of a sudden, you mentioned we could see a slew of upsets again coming into Wimbledon, and some of the the one have to open up for that. And what you've mentioned, Barry, with of the top players, that could very, very well happen this year at Wimbledon 20. Yeah, and more matches in Halle, Barry. A very intriguing matchup. Gael Monfils taking on Kei Nishikori in the second round. Obviously, Nishikori had health issues of his own. Monfils as well with the dramatic win over Fognini before falling short at Roland Garros. What do you think of a Gael Monfils Kei Nishikori match in the second round at Halle?
It's just it makes you really appreciate how hard it is to make a living out on the tour. This is not even a major event, and you got these two guys who were, just I don't know what Monfils is ranked now. I don't know how these guys aren't seated apart from each other in this event, to be having to play each other on a Wednesday, but on the second round. But, it's good stuff. Monfils, he's box office. He's always going to be entertaining. Nishikori, he's returning like a madman. He's going to take that ball early. He doesn't mind the low bounces. He's going to be a tough guy to handle here. He's had a couple of weeks off. Hopefully he's healed. He was the hot guy going in. He was actually my dark horse pick for Paris until he flamed out with his hamstring, right? Or if I'm not mistaken, some his physical ailment there. So I'm a Nishikori fan. I'm long on him. I think he's probably going to be in the top 5 or 6 by the end of this. By the time this year is over and make his way to the year-end tournament over in London. So I like him. I just think he's too solid for Monfils. I think Monfils might have had that little vacation on the beach after his run in Paris there, and he took a nice and easy couple of days off. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Nishikori going into this one.
Yep. Okay. Good to hear. And another match that jumped out at me, potential third-round match. Both guys still have to win their second-round match, but Roger Federer, we just can't get away from him tonight on the show. Very scintillating potential matchup in the third round against Ivo Karlovic, who, Ivo on grass, my goodness. I remember Fed lost to him in Cincinnati in the first round one time, obviously a bunch of tiebreakers. And Roger said after the fact, I didn't play poorly. This was just a serving contest, and he won on this day. But that was on hard court. This is on the grass in Halle, Germany. And your thought on Roger Federer-Karlovic potential third-round match?
It's one of the more fascinating statistics, I think, on the men's side, how the giant flame-throwing serve guys, they're in this whole class of, much taller than normal players, the Karlovic, Isner, Anderson, Janovic, just types, don't do that well on the grass for some reason. Yeah. And I think a lot of it has to do with movement. At some point they've got a return serve, and that just never, just what happens on the grass is everyone else's serve just gets better too. So the weaknesses in their return games just get even further accentuated. You can almost be guaranteed there'll be a tiebreaker in here. Fed has seen every serve, 100 times, so he knows how to just bump these things back and then get himself in the points. And so I would look for Federer to pretty much routine him. I just don't see how he's going to break Karlovic's going to break his serve or make any headway on his serve. Off an elite player serve on the grass these days. Yeah,
Roger's rested. He's got the extra prep time on the grass. Has obviously went right there after his departure at Roland Garros. So he is in his element right now. And I think Fed's going to get him in straight sets. And you mentioned Jerzy Janowicz. He's got semifinal points to defend here at Wimbledon. And you mentioned the big guys and their lack of mobility on the grass. And Janowicz lost first round at the Jerry Weber Open in Halle, Germany, to qualifier Pierre-Hugues Hebert of France, 7-6, 6-2. Interesting that he is out. So his prep work for Wimbledon is not good. And another guy who's actually in Rafa's top half of that draw, we talked a little bit about on previous shows, Barry, Milos Raonic, who 3 Wimbledon appearances, 3 second-round exits. Again, the serve is just about untouchable on grass, but you had mentioned, great observation, Milos just does not move well and just is not able to return all that well on grass. Do you see him maybe having a better than a second round at Wimbledon this year?
Yeah, I think his game has grown. I just think at some point, with the technology like it is. Back in the day, you could have some of these Curran types, Kevin Curran, who could come out there and just bomb away and just keep holding serve, and then kind of Roscoe Tanner-ish types. But the guys now can all return, and everyone's got a Babolat and some Luxilon, and they get their racket on the ball. I think the real enhancement in the tennis technology has been in the return of serve, not so much in everybody can hammer the serve now, but now everybody can get it back. The guys like Raonic, the problem, if you look at the history of Wimbledon, only studs win this tournament. You got to be a real athletic, physical specimen, and the one-shot wonder flamethrower guys, they're they're always dangerous. Nobody wants to play them, I'm sure, and those 3 second-round results are very surprising for someone with that big of a weapon. But at the same time, everyone's serve gets big on grass, and all of a sudden it just comes down to mental toughness, and these matches are very close, and they can go either way. So I anticipate him doing better this year. He just seems to have, of all the people we've been talking about, there's kind of a theme here where there's a lot that goes into breaking through into the elite group of world-class players. And it's another thing to stay there, like a guy like Danovich had the big breakthrough last year. Then he lost 8 or 9 matches in a row, and he just doesn't seem to have the mental fortitude to belong there. And he even taken it a step further with Djokovic, who really broke through as a champion in 2011 as the dominant player on tour. And though he's hardly come off that level that much, he's lost 5 out of 6 majors. He doesn't quite have that champion, that kind of Sampras-esque talent about him, where he plays his best tennis in the big moments all the time. He's just there's a little bit of doubt there. So it kind of, you see a theme here, and I see another theme with a lot of the other, the big guys, the Isners. They make these big moves, and for some reason they just don't have the follow through in the big events. And it's getting a little late in the game for to kind of start coming up with answers why.
Sure, good points. And we're coming up on a break, Barry, but when we come back, we've got another big tournament on the men's side at the Queen's Club in London, England. The rest of the balance of the field of the ATP field is in London, and we'll break down the Queen's tournament when we come back after this.
Hey, Thirst, can I try out a few Coke Summer sound effects on you? Cool. You okay with this? And this? And what about this? Gotcha there, Thirst. That wasn't sound effects. That was a Coke. I'm no longer thirsty. You're so out of here. Coca-Cola. Open happiness.
What is this bill for $562? Let me call these people.
Thanks for calling Big Tobacco. How can I be of assistance?
Hi, I was going through my mail and saw this bill saying I owe $562 for smoking-related expenses.
That's correct, ma'am.
Yeah, what's the deal with this bill?
You see, smokers miss more work and retire earlier, which costs Nevadans $903 million in lost productivity per year. Also, smokers get sick with diseases like lung cancer and emphysema, costing another $565 million in medical expenses. So, when you add it up and divide by a total number of Nevadans, it comes out to $562 per Nevada household.
Okay, but I don't smoke.
Whether you smoke or not, every Nevadan pays the bill.
You know what? I'm not paying this bill.
Actually, you already did. And you'll be making the same payment again next year. Well, thank you for your call.
Hello? Is smoking worth it? Learn more at smokefreevegas.com. That's smokefreevegas.com. Or for free help quitting smoking, call 1-800-QUIT-NOW. That's 1-800-QUIT-NOW.
Made possible by funding from the Department of Health and Human Services.
Little Caesars, home of the $5 hot and ready pepperoni pizza, now has a deep dish pizza with 8 crispy caramelized corner slices and even more cheese and pepperoni. So head on down and grab a large for just $8 and tell them Alan Varner sent you. They won't know who that is, but as a voice actor, I'm always trying to get my name out there. Check me out at alandoesvoices.com. That's ALAN doesvoices.com. But first, get the new deep dish pizza. It's hot and ready every day from 4 to 8 p.m. for just $8, only at Little Caesars.
Pizza.
At participating locations plus tax.
Hi, this is Jeff Salzenstein.
Hi, this is Kendall Hart.
Hi, this is Dick Gould.
Hi, this is John Embry, and you are listening to the Pro 10 Radio Network.
And welcome back to the final segment of Passing Shots on the Pro 10 Radio Network. Pete Ziebron with Barry Buss. And Barry, we left off talking about one of the 2 men's grass court tournaments this week in Halle, Germany. And we've got another very big one at the Queen's Club in London, England. Some very interesting matches coming up in the second round. The number 1 seed there is Stan Wawrinka. Other top seeds, number 2, Berdych. Number 4 is Dimitrov, and we've got number 3, Andy Murray. And this is an interesting little section of the draw in the bottom half. We've got Radek Stepanek taking on Bernard Tomic, and the winner is going to play the winner of the Andy Murray-Paul Henry Mathieu match. So we're going to see what Murray looks like right out of the gate. Pretty tough customer in the veteran Matu, and I really like that Stepanek-Tomic match. I don't think we'll know what we're going to get out there. Bernie obviously not having a stellar year, and Radek Stepanek very animated on the court. What do you like in these matches, Stepanek-Tomic and Murray-Matu?
Well, I'm always pulling for Bernie. He's an attempt at least at a breath of fresh air for, on the men's tour. He's definitely not your cookie cutter, world class tennis player, and he seems to be trying to have it both ways, where he's having a lot of fun out there, on his downtime, and showing up to play ball. Right now, it's been a little bit of mixed results, but I understand he's healthy. I think he had a good first round win. They beat somebody of note. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. So it's good to see him grind out a good. Yeah, okay. He had a nice 3-set win over him, and I'm pulling for him. He's got all the talent. I think he made a quarterfinal run there. It's been his best run in a major ever with it Wimbledon a couple of years back. So he's got enough feel. He's got enough power. He's got enough guile in his game. And then you got a guy like Stepanek who just keeps defying time here. And it was 34, 35. You got to figure at some point. You see Haas's shoulders kind of flaming out on him. You got to wonder when are these guys going to get tired. But, listen, he's got a wonderful game for the grass. He does not afraid to take the ball early and take chances and get in and, and scramble around and turn it into kind of a track meet. So he's got a lot of talent on that court. I'm going to go with youth. I'm going to stick with Bernie. I'm in Bernie's camp, and I'm pulling for him. As for Murray-Matu, I wouldn't want to be Matu playing Murray after the last beatdown he just took in Paris and playing in his home court, and Matu lacks a little bit of the firepower to really give a guy, the defending Wimbledon champion, trouble in that kind of a context. So I think Murray will roll. And then you got hopefully a Murray-Tomic match, which would be very entertaining. A lot of yelling and screaming at their parents and other colorful behavior by both of those guys. So that should be really interesting.
Yeah, Murray, no matter who he plays, either Radek Stepanek or Bernie Tomic, will be worth the price of admission in London for sure. That'll be intriguing, and I wish I could see that Stepanek-Tomic match. I think Bernie, like you mentioned, best ever result at a major was here at Wimbledon. So we'll see what Bernie. He got the 3-set win under his belt already. So hopefully he's finding his game. I agree. I'd like to see him doing well. He brings a lot to the sport. Couple other interesting second-round matches. Actually, this one jumps out at me as well. I saw a little bit above Feliciano Lopez today coming back and winning in 3 sets, and he's playing Leighton Hewitt. And obviously, Leighton knows how to play on grass. Has got a Wimbledon championship to his name. The intriguing aspect here, Barry, is that the winner of Hewitt-Lopez will get none other than Ernest Gulbis. First off, Hewitt or Lopez, and then the winner of that against Gulbis. Who do you like in those matches?
Oh, good stuff. I looked at the rankings the other day. Lopez is still, I believe, in the top 25, and it just seemed to me he was losing every match. He was playing this spring, so I don't know where he's got his points from, but he's obviously got a few stashed away there somewhere. So he had a terrible spring. Obviously, he's got the great lefty game and the big serve. Hewitt also hadn't been winning too many matches this year. He's been really struggling. So I think he got a win under his belt first round there. He likes the grass beneath his feet. He's got a Wimbledon crown. He can return serve like few others, and as long as it's hard to tell where he's at with his health. He's just always. Something always seems to be bothering him. But, both these guys are getting up there. They're veterans. They've been out there a while. It's that's a coin toss. I'm going to go with Hewitt, though. I think, all in all, he's got a little more moxie on that surface than Lopez does. And then they go up against the Gulbis. We'll find out a little bit about Gulbis. It kind of fits in what the discussion I was having there. Is he champion material? Can he have a big result like he just did? And can he not flame out early and have, obviously come up with some inane reason why he can't play on grass? That forehand will be interesting. I wonder how he handles a very low bouncing ball on that wing. I can just see guys really preparing to slice a lot of balls into that side and see if he can get under the ball and make something happen with it. So it'll be interesting. But right now he's hot. Hopefully, if he's healthy, I'm going to pick Hewitt in the upset here to get through that quarter of the draw.
I'm actually taking the Leighton Hewitt parlay as well, Barry. I like him, obviously, on grass against Lopez, who is ranked 27 right now. But Leighton obviously knows how to win on grass. Gulbis, I don't know if you caught this. He had a couple of he was interviewed by the BBC and then something else on the side where first off, he was asked to comment on the Murray appointment of Maresmo, and he came back and said, "Well, I'd like to have either Sharapova or Ivanovic coach me. I don't really know which one, but that's who I want." That's one thing.
I'm looking for a female coach myself. I think I was looking try to find Kornikova, see if she's available.
There we go. And he also quipped to one of the British reporters that he had already lost most of his winnings from Roland Garros at the blackjack table. So interesting. Only Ernie Gulbis can pull that off. But I think Leighton will. Let's not forget he has a win this year. I think in Brisbane against Federer in the final. So he's got a title this year, and I would like nothing more than to see the lawnmower in action on the lawn in London. How about that?
No, yeah, that would be great stuff. I mean, one more run. His win over Del Potro last summer in New York was just thrilling, and it was so exciting to see, a former number one in the world who was so dominant, a little bit over a decade ago, still out there doing the grind and loving the competition and still having these great moments like that. It's really inspiring. The whole country still is behind him. Tennis is his passion, his job. He's got kids to raise, and the more Leighton can win, the better, I think.
Yeah, and another second round match that jumped out. Stan Wawrinka making his first appearance on the tennis court since losing to Guillermo Garcia Lopez in the first round at Roland Garros. Gets a first-round bye, being the number one seed, Barry, but he'll match up against Marcos Baghdatis, who needed a wild card into this tournament. Baghdatis lost the first set in the tiebreaker first round against American Bradley Klahn. Want to talk about him in a moment, but only dropped 3 games in the final 2 sets, so Baghdatis has a match under his belt coming in against Wawrinka. I like Wawrinka here, but I don't know. Marcos sort of reminds me of... has some of the Dolgopolov in him that, you get a win or 2 or maybe even 3, you get some of that going, some mojo going on the tennis court, and all of a sudden, you feel like you did years ago and, bring anybody on. I'm going to give it game, and I might just get the win. So I kind of an interesting matchup for Wawrinka here playing Baghdatis, who basically has nothing to lose.
No, very good point. And Wawrinka is, once again, we have another one of these first people here who's been kind of catapulted into the elite status. It's one thing to get there, it's another thing to stay there, and he's had some very up and down results ever since winning Australia. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles it. Obviously, Paris had to be incredibly disappointing. Not so sure you just shake that off so easily. He's not a natural grass court player. I don't know who is anymore. It's not the whole. It's changed a lot. I don't know his track record on the grass. Baghdatis, he played a match a couple of years ago. I watched him play Murray in Wimbledon, and the first couple of sets were just magnificent tennis. Murray ended up making the finals that year, but then he grinded him down. But, Baghdatis takes the ball early, hits the ball very flat off both wings, and, if he's hitting it, he can return serve. His serve has been a huge liability this last calendar year. I mean, he's routinely under 50% on first serves and, throwing in double-digit double faults. So, he's going to break himself once or twice. Wawrinka can bring it. That's a tough carry right there for Baghdatis. So I'm going to go with Wawrinka there, though I do agree with you. Baghdatis playing well is a real joy to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mentioned Baghdatis got the first-round win against Bradley Klahn, an American who really cleaned up nicely on the challenger circuit near the end of last year. Got his ranking all the way up to the mid-60s, I think was the second or third highest rated American at that point in time. And Barry, now he's now lost 7 matches in a row after winning a challenger, 6 on the ATP level, 1 challenger, lost first round Roland Garros. I believe he blew a 2-0 lead, and obviously lost in Miami, Indian Wells as well. But obviously he's finding out front center the life on the Challenger Tour life on the ATP Tour compared to the Challenger Tour. significantly different. I saw his progress looking at the results and was very impressed with his ability to win all those matches together. But much different story on even at a 250 level event, as Mr. Klon is finding out.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no breathers, you know. I mean, I think we go back, 20, 30 years ago, there might have been a few, you catch a qualifier or a local kid, but the way that tournaments are structured now, there's just no easy matches for these guys. I mean, routinely, their records are well under 500. If you're in the Master 1000 matches, tournaments, if you just look at these draws, I mean, it's just incredible what they've got to go through just to win a round or two. And a kid like Klon has spent several years out there grinding and doing it the right way, and going to college and doing the futures and the challengers and getting himself up to a wonderful ranking where he's going to get, he's going to get straight into everything for the next calendar year, and he's going to get some nice paydays from that. But boy, trying to break through even beyond that, where he can get up in the top 50 or something like that, it's just a whole other level. And that seems to be where a lot of the American kids are getting stuck right now. The Sneecheks and Steve Johnsons and Jack Stocks, and they're getting, even Ryan Williams made a run up in there, and even Donald Young. They're just, no one's getting past that 50 mark. Even Query's been stuck in these for well over a year now. It's just really, you've got to be able to win matches at the Indian Wellses, and you've got to make some runs and have a tournament where you make a semi or a quarter, and pop off a couple big wins to get up into that elite numbers. And it's just not, I don't think Klon quite has the offense in his game. He's a wonderful player, but I just don't think he's got the pop to go through the elite guys, with any kind of regularity.
Yeah, good points. I've seen a little of him. I like his game, but I don't think he necessarily has enough pop. It's almost like on the women's side, you've got some very good players who are smaller in stature, if you will, on as far as the physique, and who are backboards, who are walls, who get everything back, but. You play a heavy hitter and you're just going to get drummed. We've seen that time and time again. So a couple more matches I want to preview with you at Queens, that intriguing matches to me, Barry. Someone who has had a very interesting, good back end of the year last year, Vasek Pospisil got to the Masters 1000 in Canada, and the semis lost to Raonic there, and played some pretty good ball as well. He's playing Stakhovsky from Ukraine, who obviously, as we all know, took Federer out at Wimbledon last year. Pospisil ended a bad losing streak, got his first-round win here at Queens. Pospisil, Stakhovsky, and the winner of that gets to play most likely Kevin Anderson. Tough match, but your thoughts on Pospisil, Stakhovsky?
Here's another guy, just who kind of he had a little buzz about him for a while, that this guy was coming. He has some talent. He's, obviously Canada has been, doing quite well, and men and women, developing some players right now. He had some momentum, and he makes this big moment last summer in Montreal. Makes the semi, and he had a real good chance to make the finals, and then all of a sudden, boy, he just fell off a cliff. And you got to wonder, what's in your mentality. I mean, obviously it's wonderful that he won this match, but I just don't think you can go 3-4 months, not win a match, and all of a sudden, just pull one out and all of a sudden be confident. So at the same time, Stakhovsky seems to have gotten really caught up in the politics of his nation and a lot of things under his homeland, and rightfully so. That's a very scary situation over there. I'm sure he's got friends and family and that are in dire straits over there. So it's really, when life gets in the way of leisure a little bit, and your priorities change a little bit. So I'm not quite sure how dedicated and focused he's been to his game. I haven't seen his name run deep into a tournament, but hey, he had being back on the grass has got to feel good for him. He had his career moment last summer at Wimbledon, beating Federer, and he's not afraid to come in and make things happen. So I'm gonna go with the Ukraine on this one. Let's see if Stakhovsky can get through this, and then we go up against one of the big servers. I don't know if Anderson's got much of a track record on the grass. I don't recall him going far in Wimbledon. So, but maybe this will be his year. He's had a good set of results. Seems to be hitting his ground. He's better. So I'll look for Anderson to get to that segment.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that as well. Pospisil, for a while there before he had his nice breakthrough in Montreal, got so close in so many matches and had, boatloads of match points against guys he should be closing out, and just, I don't know what the deal was. I don't think he did either. He just wasn't able to finish. He was able to do that in Canada, but not often enough, and reminds me a little of Janowicz in that sense of, some of these big guys that, can get pretty deep, but are really lacking in the confidence department right now. And speaking of another big guy, someone who's intrigued me, who I've seen play, a lot of top guys in the field, very tough. Doesn't always get the win, but gives them quite a battle. Dennis Istomin from Uzbekistan playing Alexander Dolgopolov, who will be interesting to see how he bounces back as well, Barry. Horrible loss at Roland Garros. I believe he, I think he dropped 3 or 4 games in the first 2 sets. 2 sets to love lead, then I think he managed 5 games the rest of the way and bowing out of the tournament. So Istomin's a tough customer on grass, and how do you see the Istomin-Dolgopolov matchup in the second round?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Istomin. I got a chance to see him live last summer in New York, and he looked great up close. He's a big guy. He's not the most agile out there, but he's a clean ball striker, beautiful service motion. Which is I think where Dolgopolov is just going to come, run into trouble on the faster surface this year. The first serve percentage is abysmal, and it's really unreliable when it gets down to crunch time, and the second serve can hang there too. So I just don't think when it gets close in these matches that his serve is going to hold up. And a lot of times they say the most important shot in these grass matches is not your first serve, but your second serve. And can you consistently hit your spots and be aggressive on it? And I just got a feeling that will probably be the difference. I think Istomin's just a much better server, and I think he will probably prevail here.
Yeah, I like Dennis there too. Bigger guy who's a little bit more consistent. I feel than some of the other guys, and I've had a chance to see him play live a couple times in Cincy. Very impressed. He's just run into a much bigger and better opponent when he's had to play. And last, want to close the show out by this is interesting. Obviously, the grass court season is very brief, if you will, on the ATP Tour. But I mentioned Fed is playing doubles in Halle, but a couple of the doubles teams jump out at me. Barry, Dimitrov partnering with Stan Wawrinka, and another pairing is Gulbis and Dolgopolov. That would be fun to see those guys play anybody on the court. But I just want to ask from a former player's perspective, what are these guys hoping to get besides match play? Can you see Grigor, getting anything from playing doubles with Stan, and the same thing with the Dolgopolov-Gulbis matchups?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just back to the Fed one you mentioned before too. I think a lot of this is Davis Cup. These guys are preparing for Davis Cup. After we've got a couple more big matchups coming. Very important. They're not going to get. They're not going to risk their majors. The Wimbledon, the singles by playing the doubles. They're going to get their doubles when they can. These are smaller events where they are the marquee name, so they can get the match play in. I just think in a situation like this, you just can't get enough serving and returning. In volleying, it's just an opportunity to see a lot of shots and play a lot of shots that they don't play. Certainly not in the clay court season, but even in the very slow hard court season over here in Indian Wells and Miami and Australia, etc. So the courts plays quicker. They've got their reactions got to be faster. There's a lot more net play, and you've got to hit big second serves in doubles matches, and to give them a chance to really get their confidence up in their serving as they go forward. So I see the tremendous benefit for all the guys to play. At least get a couple matches in the doubles here before the Wimbledon begin.
Yeah, great point. Match play, very, very key, and good point also about Davis Cup matches coming up, especially Switzerland. We've got Federer and Schiudinelli playing dubs, and obviously Stan is at another location in London. He's on the doubles court as well. So good tune-ups for all the guys and getting their feet back on grass. And before we leave, Barry, want to ask if you have any other thoughts or observations to look for at these tournaments in Halle, Germany, and London, England this week.
It just seems to, especially on the men's side, it just seems to be that the majors end up being the usual suspects late in the tournaments. The 3 out of the 4 big four are in the semis this time. So I just don't know. There doesn't seem to be any unknown quantities kind of lurking out there that are dangerous. Everyone's thinking, hey, he's going to make his move here. It's the tennis, the ascent of the tennis ladder is a little bit more of a slow grind. I don't think we're going to see these Boris Beckers kind of surge on the scene and wow the tennis world. So these are guys. These are just events, I think, to get guys comfortable and make sure they get their feet on the ground before the big events. But where everyone really the second week of Wimbledon is when really the major begins. And I think a lot of this preliminary stuff, unfortunately, has lost a little bit of its value over the years in the sense that the compact has been so dominant, late in the years and stuff. So, before there might have been some, dark horses that could get hot, and sneak a few wins. But right now it doesn't seem to be the way it's been progressed.
Yeah, and wanted to mention there is a WTA tournament going on this week in Birmingham, England. We really didn't touch on it so much just because the field is very light. The women have 2 tournaments next week, but this week the number 1 seed there is Anna Ivanovic, the number 2 seed Sam Stosur, Ivanovic number 12 in the world right now, Stosur 18. So if there were more to talk about in Birmingham, we'd certainly get there, but we're going to talk plenty about the ladies next week since their spotlight is on next week with respect to Ziebron and another tournament as well. So I want to remind our listeners that this Thursday we've got Dick Stockton as our special guest. Dick Stockton has won several tournaments in his career, beat the likes of Jimmy Connors, Arthur Ashe, Stan Smith, Eli Nastasi, among others, and we look forward to having Dick Stockton as our guest on the show on Thursday. And with that, this has been another edition of Passing Shots. On behalf of Barry Buss, this is Pete Ziebron saying good night, God bless, and we'll see you Thursday. Good night.
That's all, folks.